everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to the Division 2. And in this video, I want to talk about how the game just got its first new skill in over 5 years. And we're not talking just a variant or a mod of an existing skill, but an entirely new skill platform. Such an occasion can raise many good questions. How do I unlock it? Are there any hidden or more intricate features with it? And maybe most importantly, is it any good? So today, I want to try and answer as many of those questions as I can as we dive into Smart Cover. We'll get right to it. That said, if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more from me on the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, everything else in the Division 2, then I hope you'll consider clicking that subscribe button if you're not already. We'd love to have you around. Additionally, huge shout out and thank you to our channel members. Your support is beyond appreciated in allowing me to do what I do on here. But without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. Alright, so in order to unlock Smart Cover, you are going to need to own the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, that being because it is granted to you during your campaign progression, specifically after you complete the first main mission and you return to the bridge settlement. There's a cutscene that will play out, and at the end of it, you will be granted Smart Cover. This automatically gives you access to both the Precision and Fortified variants of the skill. Taking a look at Precision first, this is the more offensive variant. It gives you the bonuses of weapon handling, damage to targets out of cover, and auto-reloading on weapon swapping. On the other hand, you then have the Fortified variant, which is more defensive in nature, and it grants you stagger immunity, bonus armor, and then scaling amounts of pulse and explosive resistances. Alright, so a couple of function things that I wanted to cover down here in the shooting range. Firstly, there are two ways in which you can interact with and use this skill. You either have the option of holding down the button and attaching it to any piece of cover you like. If I shot it there, then it's good for anywhere within that radius. Additionally, you have the option of going into cover, tapping the button, and it will just apply the Smart Cover to center around where you are. The other key point is that you need to be in cover to get the bonuses. There was a time back in the age of the Division 1 where Smart Cover originated, where you could step out of cover and retain the bonus for a certain amount of time. That is not the case here. You need to constantly be in cover in order to get the bonus, and you can see the little cover icon on my HUD to signify that I'm eligible for that. Stat-wise, there were a few things that I wanted to point out as well because they don't jump out automatically. For the Precision variant, as we covered, you get damage to targets out of cover on there, but something you may not have known is that the damage to targets out of cover stat gets nerfed in PvP. If you click the button at the bottom to toggle PvP stats, you'll see it goes from 24% to 19%. To the best of my current knowledge, the way that it works is that you will get your DTOC value reduced by 20%, whatever value you're at. It'll be taken down by 20% whenever you go into PvP, so hopefully that helps shave off some of the strength of that bonus. And then one other thing that I wanted to point out was on the Fortified variant. They make a point even in the patch notes to say that the pulse resistance value that you get from this skill, it's only relevant in PvP, right? That's not something that gives you any benefit in PvE. However, what's weird is that at tier 1, which I'm at right now, I have 15% total pulse resistance, but if we scroll down in the list here, going to tier 4, 5, 6, and then overcharge, you actually don't get the highest amount of pulse resistance unless you're in the overcharge state. And if you didn't know, you can achieve overcharge in PvP. It is a feature that is just completely disabled within Conflict in the Dark Zone. So that's unfortunate. Seems like an oversight. Hopefully in the future they could maybe retune the values here, because if the highest values of a PvP only stat are only acquirable in a PvE feature, that seems a little bit off to me. Alright, so that is a general look at how Smart Cover works, what bonuses it gives you, but now for the big question, what do we think about it? Well, taking a look at the Precision variant first, I think this will by far be the more popular variant of the two. Not only does it offer amazing benefits like damage to targets out of cover, which we'll talk more about in a moment, but it's also one of those skills that has value even at skill tier 0. If you have the highest possible mod, which is 10% damage to targets out of cover, then you can get 20% DTOC on a tier 0 Smart Cover, in addition to 15% weapon handling, all of that for more than 30 seconds. But again, that's just at tier 0. If you choose to incorporate this on a build that has one skill tier, maybe you're running the Memento or the Ninja Bike Backpack or Technician, that then takes you up to a ceiling of 27% damage to targets out of cover, 40% weapon handling. That is really where I see the highest amount of value out of Precision Smart Cover coming in, is just kind of its general basic usage of saying, hey, I'm going to slap this onto my build and just get some free damage stats. That's not the extent of its value though. I also think that at higher ends of play, I absolutely foresee raid teams and other content like that coming up with some crazy strategies involving this. Of course, largely because it offers you damage to targets out of cover, which is not only just a lucrative stat for how valuable it is in boosting your DPS, but previously that's also been such a limited stat, we can't get that in a lot of places. And so for groups that coordinate team skill overcharge and things like that, the Precision Smart Cover is going to offer huge utility there. But if not just for that, also the fact that you can auto reload on weapon swap, that could be a game changer for weapons like the 1886 or the Diamondback or shell-based shotguns. There's just a lot of possible utility, a lot of potential build combinations, and I think people are really going to dive in deep with that. The big caveat though that we have to of course address is that this skill does require you to be in cover, and the simple fact is that not everybody is willing to play that way. That said, if you can get over that requirement, I think Precision Smart Cover has a lot to offer you in terms of gameplay, team utility, all of the above. The fortified variant, however, is kind of another story. It is absolutely a bit more niche, although I do not think that makes it useless. In PvE content, the fact that it gives you stagger immunity is pretty big. I absolutely see value in pairing it with the new measured assembly gear set that we got this season. That requires you to either have a deployed hive or smart cover in order to unlock the kind of trophy system talent that it has. And so in content like Legendary, where the gear set can soak up and destroy most of the incoming drones, while then the ones that slip through, your fortified smart cover is protecting your team from the majority of the damage with explosive resistance. That could be a really amazing combo. The one area that I am pretty disappointed in here though is in terms of PvP, because when they first pitched this and they said that it was going to come with pulse resistance, I thought, wow, that's going to be a really cool way to get that stat. But as we covered over in the shooting range, if achieving 50% pulse resistance on here is only doable if you have overcharge, and overcharge is not actually possible to achieve in PvP, that seems like a pretty big oversight. That could then allow for 6 skill tier support players in PvP to offer out team-wide stealth in the DZ or conflict, and I think that would make for some really interesting gameplay opportunities. But yeah, we'll see what they end up doing there. My friends, that is the breakdown for the new Smart Cover skill that has just been added to the Division 2 and my thoughts on it. After hearing me talk, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Have you been using Smart Cover since unlocking it? If so, what have you been pairing it with? Or if you're maybe still waiting to give it a full try, what sorts of ideas do you have about builds to pair it with, other things like that? Whatever you've got, love to hear about it down below. That is going to do it for me on this one. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you back soon, but until then, RogueGold out.